Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Wednesday, July 5th. It's Allie, Coram, and Ed Carson here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, where there weren't a lot of fireworks, a lot of fizzling stock action, but there were some notable names we're going to go over, Ed.
Well, a few names to look at. Google made a nice move today. Monday.com had nice support, and Flowserve is just hanging around just below a buy point.
All right, we will get to those stocks, but first, let's take a look at the action for the major indexes today. And we'll kick off with a look at the NASDAQ down 0.2%. Same for the S&P 500. The Dow down 0.4% today. The Russell 2000 taking the hardest hit. Small caps down some 1% today. So a mild downside reversal, but all in all, we are seeing the major indexes holding near those 2023 highs after a big move in the last couple of months.
Yeah, so this is solid action. I mean, honestly, some sideways action or a gradual decline wouldn't be the worst thing over a few weeks. There was sort of weak market breadth, but even there, the losers weren't that bad in most cases. I mean, there was a few, but a lot of them sort of like, they were down a little bit. So this all seems fine right now.
Mm-hmm. And the S&P, pretty similar here. It's hovering near those recent highs, holding above 4,400. Taking a look at the weekly chart, it seems like we've still got some room between where the S&P is and this high at 4637. Back to the NASDAQ just briefly, one potential or two potential resistance areas to watch for the NASDAQ, 14,000 and change, which we can draw back all the way to the highs in early 2021. And this peak here from last April on the NASDAQ, just above 14,600. So on the upside, those are the areas we're watching. On the downside, I mean, plenty of room where the action is and all of the major moving averages, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, even just a drop to the 21-day line would have to be a pretty bad day, that's for sure. So there's a lot of room there, a lot of support areas where it could come down to and find support.
Let's also take a look at blue chips and small caps like we like to do. So here's a look at the Dow holding near recent levels above its moving averages as it tries to carve the right side of this long consolidation. Breakout of this level would coincide with around 34,500 or so. So we'll have to see if it can clear that level. And taking a look at IWM, this is the Russell 2000. Is this a concern, Ed, to see a 1% decline? I mean, we know that small caps tend to move more in either direction, or at least that's been the case as of late. But is this a cautionary move here today?
I can't take it too seriously after 6 straight up days. And I mean, you look, if you fall 1% again and then fall 1% again, then yeah, that would be worrisome. But this seems fine so far.
Okay. Next on the list, we want to take a look at the 10-year Treasury yield because we did see a breakout here today for the 10-year. So how should we interpret this?
Yeah, it was pretty decisive. It had been getting up there recently and really broke out. This is one reason why stocks probably drifted lower. And just there was Fed minutes today, but that didn't seem to have any impact on Fed futures. Didn't seem to really affect stocks. But yeah, I think this is, there's strength in the U.S. economy. I think so that should be one thing. I think there was more on the long end, the yield coming up rather than the short end, which is more tuned to Fed rate moves. And so there was this, and then there was the dollar. So that was, strong U.S. and strong yields, weak overseas. That's a recipe for a strong dollar. And so that was a pretty nice move today, getting above the 200-day line again. This has been an area, and that whole 28 area has been an area of resistance. And so, but I think those are a couple of reasons why stocks struggled a little bit today.
Mm-hmm. And we want to take a look at market breadth. So here is RSP down about 0.4%, so a little bit more than the S&P 500 today, and QQEW down 0.3%, also down a little bit more than the NASDAQ composite. But all in all, we're still seeing these ETFs holding near their recent highs. So it doesn't seem like anything too concerning here, Ed.
No, and there's again, so there was a fair amount of losers, but a lot of them, not all, there was always a few that are going to be terrible. They're like, but most of them weren't that bad today.
Hmm. And let's take a look underneath the surface at some sector and thematic ETFs. Here is XLI, Ed. It looks like we're still seeing industrial stocks holding up, maybe taking a little bit of a break today, but last week was quite strong and holding the bulk of that gain this week.
Yeah, strong week, modest pullback, strong week. That's a nice way to go. And just this is looking really, really, really impressive.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get another test of the 10-day or the 21-day for XLI, and it could still continue this nice uptrend. So we'll just be aware of that. Jets. So airline stocks continuing higher here, Ed.
Yeah, and travel in general had a pretty solid session. Either they were moving higher, the airlines and cruise lines, or they were at least holding up. So does seem like this is finally going. We'll see.
Yeah. And props to you for putting these stocks on our radar as they were setting up and breaking out. I know, between Delta and United, before they broke out, even they were on your radar. So thanks for putting them on our radar. And let's take a look at chip stocks. Here's SMH, definitely underperforming today with a decline of 1.9%. And it looks like it could be headed back to its own 21-day line, Ed.
Yeah, again, not the worst thing to have a little bit longer pause. It was interesting that well, NVIDIA did ultimately fall for most of the day. It was up, it barely fell. But yeah, this is looking healthy, and get some handles, get some bases, some more tests of the 21-day line. It could be very constructive.
Mm-hmm. And IGB tracks the software sector, managed to eke out a gain today.
Yeah, a lot of stocks, reversed higher or paired losses, and Salesforce was doing pretty well today. So there's a lot of, this is looking very strong as well.
That it is. Well, now let's take a look at some notable movers from today's session and some stocks for your radar. First, Google clearing a trend line alert that the team had set, ended up with a gain of a 1.5%. Didn't have strong volume today, but it's the day after a holiday. So, should we be concerned that Google didn't have volume behind this move today as it's bouncing above that 21-day line and clearing a trend line here?
I don't know about concern, but you'd like to see that volume. That's just, sometimes that happens. It did bounce from the 10-week line on a weekly chart. So there's that, and it got above that trend line. So there's a lot of things. It got bounced off the 10-week line. It broke the trend line. It got above the 21-day line. And I think you could have used the 21-day line as a place to enter. And there's also, or the high from a couple days earlier. That's basically the same thing as the 21-day. So enter there. Not a whole lot of gain from that, but that seems like a logical place to have gotten in. We'll see. We'll see if that does well. You probably want to use something like the 50-day or 10-week line as maybe a place to get out if you did get into this, because there's been a couple times when it's teased and it's looked like, oh, where it's going to go, and then it's pulled back. So, but nice action today, and this was added to Swing Trader today.
Yeah, definitely a nice move there, nice setup. And we also want to take a look at MNDY. This is Monday.com. Intraday undercutting some recent lows, but reversing higher by the end of the day, Ed.
Yeah, and reverse higher from just above its 10-week line. And I think this is fairly healthy action. Even when it was down, it was like, well, what do you expect? I think Justin Nielsen was saying this on IBD Live. It's like, well, look at how much it's moved. Like this pause on a weekly chart, it looks fine. This is drifting lower. Even on the downside, it seems like the blue bars have been higher. So it seems like it's found some support along the way in this little area. So you don't know. I mean, maybe tomorrow it'll fall sharply through or something, or down the road. Here, it's like if you can break the trend line, maybe you get back above the old buy point, which is still, I think you could call valid. That would seem to be a place where you could enter this name. And now it's not so extended. When this broke out, it was way above the 10-day line, 10-week line, or the 50-day line, and now it doesn't look like that so much anymore. So it looks set up. So that breaking that trend line, you'd be getting above the 21-day trend line, old buy point, somewhere in there. You could probably be taking a position.
Yeah. And I'll set an alert just in case it happens to do that. And now let's take a look at FLS. Machinery, industrial, this area seems like it's popping up more on our screens, and the group is now ranked 27 out of 197.
Yeah, and look, in construction, on industry and manufacturing, other things, there's a lot of things going on in that regard. And this has had a long sideways action, but take a look at the profit growth. Okay, the last quarter was sort of crazy how that is jumping up, and that's not going to continue. But 65% growth this year, and then 24% next year, and this is not like that. There's a whole lot of growth stocks. If you saw that, you'd be saying, "Oh, look at this." If this were a chip stock, you'd be going, "Wow, look at that amazing growth." So this is really strong. And the valuation, it hasn't priced this in. That's for sure. It seems like. So I think there's a lot to like, holding up well. A lot of these industrial names are taken off, and this is one that seems to have pretty good technicals and fundamentals.
Let's also look at the monthly chart here just to see if it has a history of making moves in the past, and it does in the early 2000s, it looks like, also a run from 2011 to 2014. So it has shown that it can outperform the market. But now let's see, look at this long-term trend line that we can draw. It looks like it could be close to busting out of there, Ed.
Oh, that, I had not seen that on the monthly, but that's very close to the breakout. So that's great. And that would be just another reason why, if it breaks out here, that, you'd be interested in taking this seriously.
All right, something to consider. All right, thank you, Ed, and thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we hope you join us with Ed as our host. Investors.com/IBD Live for all the details. We'll see you there, and we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.